All right, so seems like we're live and ready to go. Yes. So today we are going to learn Three.js library, and I hope you had some time trying new things that we learned yesterday: HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. I hope you had time to play around with it, and maybe you tried changing some colors, adding some buttons, replacing pictures and stuff like that. And today is the day when we are going to go 3D in our browser, and for that we're going to use Three.js library. There are multiple libraries in JavaScript that enable you to work with 3D assets, but Three.js is the most supported, the most popular, I guess. And if you go to Three.js.org, you're gonna see lots of examples of what is possible with this library. I can show you some of them. For example, this is the website for a car producing, for a company producing electric cars, electric vehicles, which is called Faraday Future, if I'm not mistaken. And with Three.js, you can just drive the car in your browser. Go here and there. All right, this is a really great example. This is the portfolio website of a developer. His name is Bruno Simon, and this is his portfolio website. Everything is in 3D, and you drive this car around, hit things, and you can make some actions. I don't know, check this out when you have time. It's pretty fun. Okay. All right. Well, there are many different websites, even guys from NASA are using Three.js. So why shouldn't we use Three.js? All right. We stopped yesterday somewhere here in our script.js file. I don't think that we really need any of this code. So we can start from scratch, and first thing we need to do is to get familiar with Three.js documentation. If you go to Three.js and then just click documentation, you get to a lot of different helpful materials that they have here. And the first article is getting started and creating a theme. And actually, this is an example of what you need to do to make your 3D scene ready in Three.js. We will go step by step, but in a slightly different way from this tutorial. What you need for your 3D scene to work, first of all, you need to import the Three.js library. There are different ways how you can do this. You can just download the library. If you're working locally on your computer, just download the library and you'll be able to use it only on your computer. But now we are working on Glitch. It's already online. Our website is live. And what I would like to show you is thing named CDN, and we will import our library directly in our JS file. So if you go and Google something like CDN, oh no, I have everything in Russian, all right. You can just type in CDN and you will find different CDN services. I'm gonna use the one named JS Deliver. If you go there, you can find a lot of information here. Basically, CDN is like an online container for different libraries. You don't have to install them on your computer, don't have to download them to use on your website. You can just import them and like connect to the server, import the library to your website, and you're ready to go. What we need to find here is a thing named Three. Just type 3 and you will find this JavaScript 3D library developed by Mr. Dup. Mr. Dup is a developer who is the leader of the team developing this library. Okay, you need to go to 3 and just, I guess, copy this URL here. And you need to type in here something like import start as 3 from and then your URL, but I guess you will run into an error. Yeah, cannot use import statement outside the module. This means that our script.js file is not have the proper type to be able to import libraries, and you should type here type equals module like that, and seems like it's working. Now we don't have any errors in our console. So in my file, in my HTML file, this is line number 14, where I import script.js file to my HTML file, and here I just type type equals module in quotes or double quotes, and then in my script.js file everything seems to be working. Probably we can just check what's going on if we make something like console.log 3, and yes, we have a module over here, I guess. Seems like everything is fine. All right, let's try to continue and turn this red rectangle over here into our first 3D scene with Three.js. So you need 3 things to enable your 3D scene with Three.js. First of all, you need a scene itself, then you need a camera, and then you need a render to render your scene with the camera. And first of all, you can just copy these lines. Okay, this is unnecessary now. 3.scene is not a constructor. Something's going wrong. All right, let me check the details. Right, as I'm checking, I can show you another way to import this, I guess. Maybe I can, I don't know, maybe I can. Alright, so another option is to import it here if you don't make this module type thing. You can just like import it straight in your HTML document like this, script src equals, then not this, your URL towards your library, this one. Yep. And this should be working fine as well. All right, so what we did here is actually correct. I don't know. Everything should be fine, so probably we can continue and just ignore the mistake that we had. This. All right. Scene is not a constructor. Okay. All right. I'm not sure why we have a mistake like this. This line is not necessary here. So we have our scene initiated. Then what we need is our camera. You can just copy paste this thing. Any new mistakes? No new mistakes. All right. And then we need our render. All right, like this. And what they are doing here in this setup, they add this render DOM element, the canvas, through JavaScript. But we already have our canvas in here in our HTML, so we have to specify our canvas for the render, and we're gonna do it like this. We have to make a variable, for example, my canvas, equals document.get element by ID, and we have to find our canvas. Yeah, it has ID my canvas. That's the way we named it yesterday. Okay, my canvas like this. And then in our render, we should specify this canvas inside an object. So just type canvas colon my canvas like this. All right. I hope we're good to go. Next, what we need to do is what they are saying. All right. Next thing what we need to do is to render our scene, but to make this, you just type render.render and what are you going to render scene with the camera that you have, this line over here. But since we are going to make an interactive experience, we have to produce around 60 renders in second, and to make it we need an animate function. So we can just copy paste this thing and put it over here and see what happens. I think the problem is still not working. Sorry guys, we always run into different troubles launching all this stuff. Maybe not const. No, still nothing. All right. Oof. What if I try to change the background? Scene dot background dot equals new 3 color yellow. Alright, if I make it like this, I will have a lot of mistakes. 3 is not defined, that's fine. Let's try and make it from here. I already had that line. Yeah, it works like this. So now it's working when I import it in my HTML, and it's not working when I import it straight in my JS. Why is that happening? Probably try another version. Okay. Alright, like this. And multiple instances are being imported. Okay, we can get rid of this thing. This 3 scene is not a constructor. All right. Actually, this is the first time I'm facing a mistake like this. I think there is something something simple is not correct here, but I can tell you what it is right now. At least it's working. We have a yellow background. All right. Why we have a yellow background? To change your background, now you have 3 objects from a Three.js library. Your scene, which is basically a container for everything you're gonna have here. Then camera, which is the camera that you're looking through on your scene, and your renderer that renders your scene with the camera that you have. Our render is attached to our canvas in HTML file, and that's it for now. So let's add a cube and make it rotate. Alright, so basically with any geometry in Three.js, what you need to have, first of all, you need to have the geometry itself. Either it's a box, either it's a sphere, either it's a torus or something like that. Then the material that should be applied to this geometry. And then the third thing you need to have is the mesh itself that gets kind of the geometry and then applies the material over it, and the mesh is visible on your screen. So first thing you need to do is say something like geometry equals, let's make a box, so it's gonna be new 3.box geometry. Be careful with capital letters and not capital letters, don't mix them. So inside of the parentheses in this box geometry command, you can type the size of the box you need to have. Like by default, it's 1 by 1 by 1. Then we need to have a material, and you can type const material equals new 3 dot mesh standard material, something like this, and we can specify a color of our material. Well, this one is green, let it be green. All right. Then the mesh itself, you can call it whatever it is. Mine is going to be called box. This is going to be new 3.mesh. if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just mesh. And in parentheses, you should state your geometry and material applied to the mesh. All right, and then what you need to do is you need to add this mesh to your scene by typing scene.add and then the name of your mesh, like this. Yes. Yes. Now you don't see anything because your camera and the mesh that you added are in the same spot. They have the same coordinates. So what you need to do is move your camera a bit with the command like camera.position.set, and then in the parentheses you can type 3 coordinates like 0, 0 and 5 along the z-axis, and now you see the cube. Trust me, it's a cube. If I move my camera a bit up too much, like 1, yeah, you start seeing it. Now it's really blurry and it's black, not green. That's because we don't have any lights in our scene. And we have also to specify the, how do you call it, the size of the render and how many pixels we need to have for this scene to render properly and stuff like that. First, what I would like to do first what I would like to do is, I don't know, we can type something like this, renderer.set size, and get the width and height of our window with the commands like window.inner width, window.inner height, and see, now our cube is looking better. It's not so pixelated, it's not so blurry. That's because we specified the resolution of our render equals the same as the size of our window, of the window of our browser. These commands like inner width and inner height, they specify the size of your window, for example, the width of your window from the left corner to the right corner, but without the scroll bars over here, if I'm not mistaken, and the same thing with the height from your top of your screen to the bottom of your screen, but without some extra elements like toolbars and stuff like that. So now we have our cube. We can add lights to our scene. If you go to the documentation and you can find a special section named lights, and you can see that there are a lot of different lights: ambient light, hemisphere light, directional light, point light, spotlight, etc., etc. You can click on any and you will get like a piece of code to enable it in your scene. Let's try and start with ambient light. What we need to do is add a light first, then you need to type scene.add and your light, and voila, we have our cube a little bit green. Of course, you can specify the color of your light. For example, like if you want white, you have to type it in parentheses. This is string type of declaration for JavaScript. And ambient light is just a light that goes from everywhere, all around your 3D scene, from the bottom, from the top, from the right, from the left, from everywhere. There is another type of light here, which is a little bit similar. It's called hemisphere light. And hemisphere light is imitating the skylight. Hemisphere light, so you have to type 2 colors for this, and then intensity. And now you see I have white light coming from above, and this is the upper half of my render, and the blue light is going from the bottom. And if I move my camera a bit, like -1 for example, you will see that the bottom part of my cube is supposed to be blue, but it looks really black. And if I make my cube white, color F, like this, yeah. So now you see that my cube is white and it gets blue color from the bottom, a bit more white color from the sides, and it's almost white on the top. By default, in Three.js library, the y-axis is the vertical axis. In every other software that I know, the vertical axis is the z-axis, but in Three.js, by default, the y-axis is the vertical one. So if you want to move your objects like camera or something like anything else up and down, you have to specify the y-coordinate. With any object in your scene, you have like many different options available for it. The first one, for example, is position, and you have 3 axes. Let's try moving our cube, but we will make it within our animate function. And the way animate function is working, it just takes like 30-60 renders every second, depending on the complexity of your 3D scene. And it's using this command, request animation frame. And in the parentheses, the function animate itself is mentioned, is declared, and this means that this command, request animation frame, will call this function animate over and over again, non-stop. So if we did not have this command, request animation frame, we will make just one render, like static image. And if we are having this command, we can make something like this. For example, let's move our cube. It's called box in my example. So you can type something like that, box.position.x equals, and not equals, but all right. Let's go deeper into our coding skills. Equals 2, for example, and the box is moved in the coordinate 2 along the x-axis. If I want to move it non-stop, I can type something like that, box position x equals box position x plus something like 0, 0, 1, for example. and you see the box is moving in the lower right corner. It's moving. But programmers are lazy guys. That's why they never type and code anything like that. Instead, what they would do, and I suggest you do the same, is type plus equal sign. The result is the same, but you typed less code. Alright, so if I want my box to move up as well, I can type box position y plus equals o.01. Alright. And now it's moving up as well. If I wanted to move closer to me, I can type box.position.z plus equals o.01, for example, the same. And now it will start moving closer to me along the z-axis as well. Instead of typing those coordinates along various axes, different axes, you can use a command like this, .position.set, and then 3 coordinates inside the parentheses. It's just maybe shorter, easier, depends on your situation. If you want to move it only along one axis, it's okay to type position dot something like that. All right. Another property of any object is rotation. You can type something like that, box.rotation y plus equals o.01. And the box is rotating right now. Yeah, you can adjust the speed with this number. As you see, Three.js is working with just units, 1 unit, 2 units, and so on. In terms of architecture and 3D models that we make, it's easier for us to use meters, like 1 unit is 1 meter over here, because if it were millimeters, you will have to, well, scale your scene, and well, you will have a lot of troubles. Okay, so let's imagine that this initial box 1 by 1 by 1 with the dimensions 1, 1, 1 is the box 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter in real life. Okay, same thing with rotations, rotation along any axis like X and Y. Is it rotating? Yeah, it's rotating now in many directions. Box.rotation.z plus equals o.1. Probably it's not necessary, it will produce some strange results, but it's interesting to play with various axes and see what's going on with your object. Alright, another option that we have here is scale. So I can say box.scale.y, for example, plus equals o.01. Okay, perfect. Seems like some internet glitches, connection glitches. Okay, I see messages in chat. Just a second. Let me see what's going on. Can't open chat, why that? All right, just a second. Okay. Oh no, I can see it from another device. All right, how do I get? Oh, finally. Okay, everything is great. All right. So the same thing with scale along any axis. And what else? Now we have our cube rotating. That's great. We have our function animation and so on and so on. All right, let's stop it from here. All right, the cube, the lights. Let's check some other lights. For example, directional light is a light. It's basically a sun, and you can use this along your ambient light or hemisphere light. Directional light, okay. You can directional light dot position dot set and move it a bit. For example, 2/0.5 maybe. Directional light. And now you see that the cube is more lit from behind us. The point light, for example. Let's comment this out and go to point light. Just grab this thing, add it to your scene, and we have the same name. Okay, point light. All right, and let's change the position. 5. All right, 0, and maybe a bit lower, like 2. All right, and 0. All right. Oh. Should be red. Red, no. Point light position set. No. All right. The reason for this probably we may not have shadows enabled. If you want to receive shadows in your to enable shadows in your scene, you have to type something like render dot shadow map dot enabled equals true. True. This will enable shadow maps in your scene. All right. No errors. Okay, fine. So, okay, I didn't add it to my scene. That's the very, very common mistake, that you create all your geometry, and then you don't add it to your scene, and you're like, what's going on? Nothing is working. Why is that? So now you can see that my cube is receiving some red lights from the point light. You see it's a bit pink. So as for setups for your point light, you have color, you have the closer distance where the light starts, and then you have the far distance where a light has no effect at all. It's like 100 units from the point light itself. Rectangle light, I don't think that it's necessary for us to go and see. It's just a rectangle highlighting your scene. And then spotlight. Spotlight is more like a flashlight. When you're using your flashlight to find something in the darkness, you have like a cone-like light flow, and that's it. For different lights, you have different options like cast shadows, for example, and for your objects, you also have options like cast shadow, receive shadow, and stuff like that. Let's try. Maybe we can add a plane. Let it be const plane geometry equals new 3 dot plane geometry. All right, and then let it be a big plane like 15. Yes. All right, then we will use the same material from our box. We don't have to set up the material once more. We can say that const plane equals new 3 dot mesh, and we're gonna use plane geometry and material. And then we are going to add it to scene. Oh, all right, it's added, but in the wrong direction. It's like facing us now. What I need to do is make like plane rotation. I guess X equals, and all your angles should be specified in radians, so we are going to use pi. All right, divided by 2, and the negative. Yeah, so now we have our plane, and we need to make it lower. Plane dot position dot y equals -0.5. Yeah, now our cube is on our plane, and we are trying to add some shadows. All right, shadow map enabled. Let's make shadows from the directional light, for example. Cast shadow. You can say the intensity is gonna be no, all right. You can say directional light dot cast shadow equals true. You can say something like plane dot receive shadow equals true. And you can say something like box dot cast shadow equals true, and you're not gonna see any shadow. Yeah, that's fine. What the reason? Probably the camera position, or maybe the direction of the light position. 5 and be -5. All right. Not like this. All right, I'll figure it out in some time. What will happen if we move our box a bit? Box dot position dot y equals 5. All right.
No. Did you say something? No. Did you say it really? Like right now?
All right. No mistakes and no shadows. That's not what I wanted, but we'll figure it out in a few minutes, I guess. All right, any questions, guys? Anything you'd like to ask now? Otherwise, I suggest to make a short break, like 5, maybe 10 minutes, and come back a bit later while I will figure out the problems we have with importing and stuff like that. Okay? Then see you in a while. Пуф. Так. Да, звук и видео остановил вроде как. Трам-пам-пам. Что же не так? Что же не так?
Не работает?
Не работает, я не знаю почему. Модуле. Может быть, дело в надписи вот в этой вот.
Ты остановил там трансляцию?
Нет, я не могу остановить трансляцию. Defer Вот это мы закомментим. Вот это у нас будет в JS. Это у нас будет здесь тогда. Так. Three scene is not a constructor. Что такое? Three.scene is not a constructor. Okay, the wrong. From the build folder of the Three.js version hosted by Three.js. From the build folder, yes. It's from the build folder. Three scene, capital S. No. Странно. Странно. cdnjs delivered.net npm 3 at 3. Okay, we need module.js. Alright. I got it. The wrong version of the library. Whoa, 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 whoa. So, alright. Three.js shadow z. Instead, I can go here. Okay. Module.js. Alright. Enable true, sphere, cast, shadow, true, plane. Cast shadows, true. Значит, directional light. Cast shadow true. Alright. Plane. Receive shadow true. Box cast shadow true. Alright. And enabled true. Okay. Probably get rid of this. Get rid of this. Functional light. It's black. No. Oh, 5. Strange. Of course. All right. All right. Box. Rotation 1 is 1, and then box dot position. I don't know. Mass dot axon from dot scene from box dot rotation dot y. All right. All right, guys. Join if you're ready. Send me a plus sign or something like that. All right, shadows are fixed, and this importing thing is fixed as well. What are the mistakes? When you try to import your library like this, first what you need to do is to type this thing in your HTML that you're using a module, and then in your JavaScript file you should select the proper type of your Three.js library, the module exactly. When you go to CDN, something like this, you get this link first and it says min.js. What you need to do if you want to just import it in your JavaScript file, you need to use this one, module.js. So when we changed min to module, everything started working correctly. Now the shadows thing, the mistake was in the position of the directional light. You should state the property of this light, cast shadow true. You should enable shadows in your render with this line render the shadow map enabled true. You should say that your objects are casting shadows by saying your object name dot cast shadow true, and you should say that other objects are receiving shadows. It may be same objects as well, casting and receiving shadows, but now we are using a plane that receives shadow and a box that is casting the shadow. All right, and then check the position of your directional light, because it was in a 0 position along the vertical axis, the y-axis, and that's why it's not casting any shadows, because it's flat in the ground. You should move it up, and then shadows start working. All right, so what we did here, why is our box jumping? We just started rotating it, and then we set the position of the box, the vertical position of the box, equals the sinus of the rotation value, but we need only positive numbers for it to jump. So okay, if you know the sinus graphic, it goes like this, like up and down, and you want only positive numbers like this, and for this you use mass.abs, which gets absolute values of the numbers you provide, so only positive, in other words. So now we have our cube jumping. All right, this is just a fun part. Let's try to load our own 3D model in our 3D scene. Now that we have lights, we have backgrounds, we have shadows and stuff like that. You can use various file formats, and how do you find this? Actually, loading 3D models. All right. The most popular and the most recommended file format is GLTF, GL transmission format. GLB or GLTF versions of the format are supported. Otherwise, you can use FBX, OBJ, or Collada files, but I strongly recommend you stick to GLTF. I had a lot of problems with OBJ files. They are not rotating correctly, something wrong with the textures, and so on and so on, and you're always into troubles, with them. You're always in troubles. So to upload, let's make one more thing before we start. Let's make free rotation in our theme. So if you go to 3.js, then we need a folder with examples. Examples.js, controls, and here you have different type of controls in Three.js. Let's type in controls here. You may have drag controls, and we are going to use them to drag and drop our objects. You're going to have you can have orbit controls. This is what we are going to import now. Let's try with the examples. You can go to examples, and there are many different examples with the codes examples as well. You just click here, view source code, and it will get you to a GitHub page with the source code. So what we want to do now is to be able to rotate our camera, not like this. Come on, find me orbit controls. Various materials. We were using just standard materials. There is, for example, a normal material which gives you a result like that. Predefined colors applied to your model. Okay, maybe I should just find it like this. Orbit controls. Here you go. So orbit controls allow you to rotate with your mouse or with your touchpad. So what you need to do is go to the examples folder, JS controls, and here you have orbit controls. This is what you import exactly. The code that you import, various functions already combined in a package, easy to use for you. So click here, copy URL, go to your JS file and type something like import, then curly brackets, then orbit controls from, and specify the link. Make sure you're using the same versions of Three.js. The version is mentioned here, 3.0.129, 3.0.129. Make sure those numbers are the same here and there. Then what you want to do is somewhere in your scene, for example, adding controls, something like this. You want to say a variable, let it be const controls equals new orbit controls, and then you should provide your camera and the renderer that you have, like that, render.dom element. And then you should type scene.add controls. All right, something is not working. All right, orbit controls does not provide. Okay, seems like the wrong folder again. Examples JSM controls, orbit controls. Yes, let's try this one. The same. Failed to resolve module specifier 3. All right. I must start with either or. Okay. Orbit controls is not defined. Okay. All right. Somehow it's not working again. Something is wrong. Let's try maybe another version of the library. I don't know. All right. So there are some troubles with the versions, I guess now. Just make sure you stick to the version 0.119.1, 0.119.1. Something is constantly updating, that's why you may have some unusual experiences. And look, now you can rotate your scene with your mouse, you can scroll closer and further away with the mouse wheel, and you can drag your scene with the right mouse button now that your controls are enabled. And by default, by the way, you see objects only from one side, and see the plane is visible, the plane is not visible. You can specify like a special property to make it visible from both sides, but I think it's not necessary if you have your normals correctly. And the same thing with the cube. When you get inside your cube, you don't see anything, but when you're outside of your cube, you see it. Be careful with the normals of your models. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to use the loader. Loading 3D models. To load your 3D model, you have to import a GLTF loader. Again, so you can copy paste this line. Import thing that is named GLTF LOADER loader from examples GSM, not controls but loaders, and not orbit controls but GLTF LOADER.js, GLTF loader.js. Object 3D. Alright, some other mistakes right here. Hope everything will work correctly. And alright, let's try to upload our geometry. To do this, we have to use this code. We have to say, I have to use a new loader. First of all, declare it in our code, like, okay, adding loader, a loader to load 3D models. Okay, then what we need to do, we need to copy and paste this type of code, and what you usually say is loader.load, then you specify the URL. Let me make it like this, and I will make some comments here, like specify the URL of your model. Okay. To do this, you have to go to your assets folder, have your have your model, upload it here, click on it, click copy, make sure it's a GLB file format, go to your JS file and replace this thing with your link. Oh, you can see that it's already loaded in my scene, and I have my 3D model here. It has size like 3 by 3 by 3. That's why it's 3 times larger than the cube. What I'm gonna say here, what you can say here as well. So you have like 3 functions. You can have 3 functions within your loader. You can have a function to load where you say like scene.add gltf scene, like adding your file to the scene, your 3D model. The next function you can have is a function that will help you see how how many percents of your file are loaded. Is it fully loaded? Is it like half loaded or something like that? To make this, you can type something like this function, have an input here. I guess you can say it input xhr, and this is actually a link to your file, and probably what you can type is console.log xhr.loaded divided by xhr.total multiplied by 100 and plus some text added to it like percent loaded. Then you can see that in your console you have this the sign 100% loaded. The file is already loaded in the memory of my computer. That's why you won't see any percents getting bigger and bigger. But when you're loading it for the first time, you may see. What I'd like to do now is make a kind of a console line over here. And to do this, I will need to go to my HTML document, and after my canvas I'd like to add some simple paragraph, some text, say with an ID, let's say it's console, and simple inscription like hi, and then I need to position it correctly. I need to position it correctly with my CSS. I can go to CSS and select this console element by ID with the hash sign, and then I can type something like position absolute, and you will see it where? It's over here. All right. Let's try to get it up like top, and maybe, or maybe bottom, since it's in the lower part of our website. Maybe bottom will work. Bottom, like, I don't know, 10 EM for example, and then okay, we don't see it right now. We need it to be in front of the canvas. Now it's behind the canvas, and to fix this you have to use that index property and say it's like 2, and that's still there. That's strange. Alright, at least maybe I can move it from left, like to EM. Now we don't see it. Maybe we can add it before our canvas console. Okay, hi. All right. console everything absolute. Yes, this is the mistake I have made. All right, now okay, fine, now it works. So maybe I should fix the color, but this like depends on your situation. Like white color is not really working for me. Let it be blue. Probably blue is better. Okay, and then I can say that not console log, but in my JavaScript file I can get this console element, and I can say something like this: document dot get element by ID console dot inner HTML equals, and then have the same thing over here. And now you see 100% loaded when this thing is loaded. You can say something like, don't know, your module is 100% loaded. So now you have like a console in your app that can give you any hints and commands and I don't know, any information that you will make it to give. All right. Then you have a third function here, error, which will throw up an error if something is wrong. For example, I don't know, something went wrong and you have to refresh your page. You can say error, try refreshing. Just some hints for your users, for them to understand what is going on, what is wrong, and so on. All right, I don't like yellow background. Probably I will go with light gray background. Will be fine. I don't like any point lights here. Probably they are not necessary. Probably I don't need my box constantly rotating and jumping up and down. Maybe I don't need my box in the scene. Let me add some comments here, like adding a simple box. Okay, adding a plane. This line with camera position can go up here after the camera is added to the scene, like all right. What you also maybe need to do is to add a line like this. Just a second. To make your textures look better and brighter, maybe you need to add a line like this: render dot output encoding equals 3.sRGB encoding. Yes, this will just fix the colors of your scene a little bit. Just a little bit. So, what kind of lights do we have here now? Point lights, okay, directional hemisphere, white and blue. Do we really need a blue light? Alright, I don't know. So, next thing we need to do is maybe add this loading function to a special button. Now you have a loader in your scene. Now you have loading function. And I guess that you can put this inside the function. For example, name it load module 1, maybe. All right. Now we need to know the ID of our button. Let's go to HTML, type button ID. It's not change background. Let it be add module 1, and the second button should be like add module 2, and the third button should be like add module 3. All right, now we have different IDs for our buttons, and what you need to do is go document get element by ID, mention your button, add module 1, for example, dot add event listener, a kind of event, click, and when it's clicked you're gonna fire this load module 1 function. Alright, let's try. Oh, it's working. Now we press the button and we add a module in our scene, and then we can rotate, go closer and further. Alright, one more thing we need to do to go further on. Now we need to drag our models. Yes, you can make something like this. You can make something like this. Alright, to move your modules around your scene, you need to use drag controls. Alright, we already tried orbit controls and they're working fantastic. Then we need drag controls. To use drag controls, you need not only camera and your renderer, you also need objects you want to drag. And those objects are, this is an array. All the objects you want to drag around your scene are supposed to be stored within an array. We were talking yesterday about arrays, if you remember. Variables are just boxes that contain the information you want them to contain. And arrays are huge storage areas, storage rooms filled with those boxes of variables and different kind of stuff within them. And all the elements within the array are numerated and the numeration starts from 0 and goes until the end. All right, I hope you guys remember this thing. So first thing, we need to import drag controls. Let's copy and paste our orbit controls, rename those orbit controls to drag controls, and here orbit we also change to drag controls. Everything is working fine. All right, no mistakes here. Some mistakes that we can ignore, that's fine. Then next thing we need to do is to add, here we add orbit controls to rotate our scene, and here we're gonna add drag controls to rotate our scene. So you're gonna say probably const, not just controls, let it be orbit controls here and orbit controls here, and then you're gonna say const drag controls equals new drag controls. Okay, objects, camera, render dot dom element, scene dot add drag controls. All right, now we have a mistake. Objects is not defined, and let's define our array for objects in our scene. All right, so let me comment some basic scene setups here. Then adding a simple box, adding a plane, right lights. All right. Here we create an array to store all the 3D objects we add. Okay, and we name this objects array just like that, and we're gonna say let objects be a new array. All right, then I think I'm running into troubles again because I cannot see my project. Oh no. Again, this is the first time I get this mistake. I think it's somehow connected with the glitch itself, and that's because probably too many of us are looking at this project right now. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? I will remix this project and so that we could continue. Let me hit remix. All right. All right, and let me name my remix project WEBITECTURE 2. All right, and now we have this WEBITECTURE. Okay. Drag controls. Some new mistakes. So those of you who are watching can now just join the WEBITECTURE 2 project. It's the same. And we can continue. So when we add our 3D model to the scene, to make it available for our dragging and stuff like that, we also need to add it to our objects array, and we can say something like that object dot push gltf scene, try to add it. Come on, did I clicked? No. What's wrong? Okay. Oh, it's loaded. All right. And look, now I can drag my objects around the scene, but orbit controls are working as well, and they are conflicting with each other. So what we should do probably is make something like this. When drag controls are enabled, when you're trying to drag something, you should remove or disable orbit controls. And when you stop dragging your object, your orbit controls will be enabled again. And to make this, we need to make something like this. Okay, where are our drag controls? New orbit controls. Okay. Okay. We need to add an event listener. You should say drag dot drag controls, as we have this variable named drag controls. Over here you should say drag controls dot add event listener. Then you have different types of event listeners, like they are mentioned here, like drag start, drag end, hover on, hover off. So you can have different types of actions programmed depending on what you do with your object. You can program something happening when you just start dragging, something happening when you're already dragging your object, something happening when you stop dragging, something happening when you just hover over, hover on the object, or when you hover off the object. Different situations are acceptable and programmable here. So drag start, and then you add a function. You need an event here, and what you're gonna say is orbit dot enabled equals false. We don't have orbit, we have orbit controls. And then we will add something here. Come on, like this. And then on drag end, you're gonna say drag controls dot add event listener drag end, then attach a function again, event, yeah, like this, orbit dot enabled equals true. Yeah, this will orbit controls, sorry, orbit controls enabled equals true. Turn on orbit controls after dragging, and this thing will turn off orbit controls when dragging. All right. Let's try now. All right, now I can drag my object, add another object. When I'm not dragging, my orbit controls are enabled. When I'm adding and dragging the object, orbit controls are disabled. So that way I can assemble structures in my 3D in the browser with my in 3D. All right. Any questions? Are you guys still following, or it was too many bugs, too many mistakes? Actually, when you're working on your own app, make sure you're using this version of the library 119. It was tested by me a million times. It's working correctly, and in the newest versions of the library, something gets fixed, something gets updated, and you face problems, you face troubles, and you spend time googling what has happened. All right. Do you need a break or something, or we can continue? Anybody? I think everybody is asleep. As this was a very long part of our workshop. Okay. Since nobody is asking any questions, nobody is asking for a break, we can continue just making programming other buttons. For example, if you want loading function for button 1, if you want to have different types of modules loaded to your scene, you're gonna need loading function for every type of module and loading function for button 2. The function is going to be called load module 2, and this function is going to be attached to the button called add module 2, the ID, and you're going to trigger the function load module 2 here, and you have to upload another module. Which one? I don't remember. All right, let me check. GLTF viewer. What do we have here? We have some pipes. Well, all right, let it be this pipe. So I'll go to assets, I drag and drop my 3D model there, I copy the link, I go to my JavaScript file, and I change this link with the link to the module that I want to load. And then I press the second button and my another module is loaded in a scene. I press the first button and voila, I have different modules loaded in my scene. Maybe I should fix some lighting here. Alright, hemisphere. Like this. Probably this looks a bit better. All right, and then we have our third button here. That's easy. Load function for button 3, load module 3, load module 3, and module 3, and another model. Let it be this one. All right. Go to assets, upload, copy the link, go to JS file and update this link. All right. All right. Oh, now you have seen those numbers changing, definitely. All right. What I don't like now in this web app is that when you maybe it's only in glitch. Here it's working fine. All right, and all right. Seems working. Everything's fine. All right. Then we need to remove objects. All right. So we are adding our objects in the object array now. But I would also like to remove the objects from the array as well. And to do this, we need to make something like this. First of all, we need to set up some states for our buttons. So that the computer would know that if you hit the remove button, you activate the remove state, for example, and when this remove state is activated and you click on an object, the object will be deleted. And then you have to press the button again to deactivate this remove state. All right. let's make it like this: remove state equals false. Alright, let's just start with remove state. Okay, now we need a function to turn on and off the remove tool. This function is gonna be like this: function remove, and this function is gonna make remove state change its value. So initially the remove state is false. Where is it? Here it is. This line of code means that remove state from false will turn to true, and from true will turn to false. Okay, and we can I think we should attach this function to our remove button. We should find the ID of this button. If it's not written yet, we should state it: remove button. Alright, then we use the same thing as always: get element by ID remove button, and add event listener click, and you trigger the remove function like this. Maybe we can try adding some console log here, like console log remove is on, something like that. Or not like that, remove plus remove state, like that. And see what happens when we hit the remove button. Remove is false, is false, is false. Not like that. It should be, the exclamation sign should be here. Yes. True, false, true, false. So now we are turning on and off this remove tool. That's fine. You can have another function here, updating the menu. For example, if you want function menu updates, well, something like that, UI updates, interface updates, something like this, updating the interface. Okay, and you can write in this function something like this, like if remove state. So if the remove state is on, your remove button dot style dot background is gonna be blue, and the okay, just blue. All right, let it be blue. That's it. If the remove state is on, I'm not clicking here. Remove through. I'm not running the function yet. All right. And in another situation, when the remove state is not true, when it's false, this will be light gray, and you're gonna run this function in your animate function. Interface updates goes here and here. Okay, all right, so now I can press on and off my remove button and it changes its color. When it's active it's blue, when it's not active it's light gray. Okay, maybe we will tweak this color later, but next thing we need to do is in our drag and thing here, or maybe drag start, we should write a statement that if remove state is active, then you want to remove an object from your scene, and you have to know the name of the object that you want to remove. Every object in the scene has its name and or ID, and we are going to need the name of the object. For example, something like this. OBG name equals, it should be not here, it should be here. OBG name equals event dot object dot name. We can get this property through our drag controls. You can instantiate these variables. We are here, obj name, for example, and okay, if remove state is active, then you are going to remove an object from the objects array and from your scene. What you need to do is type objects.splice. This will remove an object from array. Which object? Event dot object dot name one, and you also need to remove it from your scene dot remove event dot object, and you also need to rename all the other objects in your scene. Let me just explain it in a minute. To rename all the objects in the scene, we're going to use the for loop. We have not seen it yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, but basically you use loops when you need to do over and over again the same action. So I want my objects in the scene to be named like object 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and for that purpose, when you remove object 5, for example, I don't want to have objects like 1, 2, 3, 4, then object 6, 7, and so on. I want to have objects dynamically renamed to make this remove thing available in my software. Yes, something like this. I'm not sure if it's gonna be working now. It's not working. It will throw some mistakes, I guess. Remove, remove, remove. Oh, now it's removed from the scene, but it's still in our scene. Because I should object push.dltf scene. All right. We will make uploading a bit differently here. What we will do, we will write something like this: gltf.scene.traverse. Then we will have function and child argument here, and if child dot is mesh, we're gonna say child dot, okay, let's enable some shadows equals true. It will also receive shadow as well. It will be named child.name will be objects.length. Then we will say objects.push child and scene.add child. All right. So we don't need this. We need this. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. All right. Too many requests. Okay. We have the same mistake. Okay, dokie. What if I go and check this project? WEBITECTURE. WEBITECTURE is active now. WEBITECTURE 2. WEBITECTURE 2 is not active. All right. Sorry guys, I'll have to copy this all and go back to my first WEBITECTURE project. Let's update everything here. All right, everything went black. Okay, add event listener of null 187 line 187 remove button. All right, remove button. Key ID equals like this. All right. I add an object. I remove an object. Just a second. I don't have IDs for these buttons. No, I should have ID. Will it work? Why is it not working? Oh, it's working. It's working fine. And the third thing is working as well. All right. So now I have 3 objects. I want to remove one. Okay, remove this, remove that. That's fine. I don't want to remove anything. I want to add this and that. Maybe I want to remove this one and then add another one. And all right, this seems like working now. Everything is fine. All right, so this remove thing is working. Do we need to create rotation? Do we need to rotate our modules? What you guys think? Okay, as well try to scale. Rotating and scaling. All right, just a lot of coding, but all right. Okay. Rotation. Let's add some states again. For example, rotate X state and set it as false in the beginning. And then rotate Y and rotate Z. Then what you need to do is when you trigger your function remove, you want to make other states rotate X state equals false, and then rotate Y state equals false. So you just disable other states. Equals false. Okay, then you have to let it be rotate function. Function rotate X. Rotate X. All right, and this function will enable the rotation state. So what you need to type is rotate X state equals the reverse of the previous rotate x state. So if it was false, it will become true. If it was true, it will become false. And then we can just copy this and also remove state equals false. All right. Making the same for y and z. Rotate y, rotate z, then this is false, and this rotate y state, and this is false, and this rotate z state. Many updates. That should okay. If rotate x state is active, then rotate x. Is that the name? I don't have any IDs. All right. Rotate x button. All right. Control C. Control V. Control V. So x, y, and z. Then x. All right. Blue. Okay. This thing should be here. All right. All right. Rotate y, z, z. So what we did is just the same for other buttons. If you hit rotate, we did not attached the functions. Rotate x, r, click, rotate x. Okay, rotate y, and rotate z, rotate z. All right, so now what's going on? Rotate x, rotate y, rotate z. All right. Rotate x, rotate y, rotate z. I forgot to change this thing over here. So x, y, z, remove. Buttons are working perfectly. When I activate one button, the other buttons got deactivated. When, well, this is how it works. Okay, and then you need to add a bit also to your drag controls. So on drag and, for example, or maybe on drag start, for example, you can say something like if rotate x state is positive, then you make something like event dot object dot rotation dot x plus equals, and here you just specify the angle that the angle you want to rotate your object with. Maybe math pi divided by 4, something like this. All right, let's try. We added an object, we hit rotate, and yeah, it's rotating now. All right, then you just can Control C, Control V with your rotations, rotate Z, and just change the axis here and there. So, all right. Now let's add an object, hit rotate Y, and see it's rotating around the vertical axis. Okay. Rotate Z, and it starts rotating around the Z axis. The point of rotation, the orbit point, origin point of your 3D model, you can check it in Blender. If you want to rotate it around another point, you should move this point in Blender, then export your GLB model again and update it in your assets folder, probably upload it again here, and then change this link in your loading function. All right. Also, what you can do is create some snaps. For example, if you don't want your objects to just move here and there. By the way, probably you don't want to drag your object while you're rotating it, so maybe you want to disable your drag controls when this rotation states are activated. Probably this could be an option. I'm not really sure if you need to make it here, but I guess drop controls enabled equals false. All right. I'm not sure we need to do it here, so let's not do it now. Probably I will add it later. All right, the scaling. Yeah, remove, rotate, scale. First of all, we need snapping. Sorry, guys. Snapping on your drag end, you can type something like this: event dot object dot position dot x equals. Just a second, my connection got lost. Can you hear me? Am I still here? Guys? I hope I'm still here. All right. All right, so snapping. You can just round your current position of your object, like mass.round and event.object.position.x. For example, let's start with something like this. It's the same for y and the same for z, y and z, and let's try and see what happens. All right, great. Add an object and start dragging it, and you see it snaps to location, and it's rounded by so it snaps to 1 by 1 grid right now. With mass like this, it snaps to 1 by 1. So we get a position like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. If you want to snap your object like 1.25, 1.5, and so on, you can make some mass like this, multiplied by some number and then divided by some number. This will also provide some snapping. Add an object, and maybe it's not so seen right now, but it's more not so precise right now. So depends on you. How do you want your objects to snap or to fix in the 3D space? I will add some comments here. Set up snap for x coordinate, and the same thing here. Set up snap for y coordinate and for z coordinate. All right, we have 25 minutes left and we need to make scaling. Let's start with one axis. I need another button first. ID scale scale X button, for example, and I want scale X to be written here. Then I go to my JavaScript and I need some state again. Let scale Z or X, what I was reading, X. All right, let's scale X state. Let it be false from the start. We're not scaling anything. Then I need a function let's make some space here. Scale x function, let's name it scale x as well. This is gonna be false, and then you're gonna say that scale x state equals the opposite value, scale x state. So, and then you attach this function, the button scale x button, click, and you're gonna scale x function, scale x. All right. Then we need to update the buttons, the colors of them, to see if it's on or off. Scale state, scale x, and the same for scale x here. All right. Now, forgot to make something. Yeah, you need to add this scale x state equals false as well here, as well here, and as well here, and in remove as well. Now scale, 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 working. Now you go to your drag controls part of code, and here you can type like if scale x state event object scale dot x and some number, for example 0.25. Let's try. No, add an object and then try to scale it. You see it's scaling up and up and up and up. And then if you want to scale it down, you need another button. Let it be scale x up. And the same for other buttons, states, then updating them, updating your UI, updating your drag controls part of code. Probably if you really want to have that controls over your object, there is a thing like that in Three.js. Let me... now, first of all, you can make a thing like that using raycaster. So you can have like a cursor showing where you can add an object and a grid and so on and so on. Now our objects are added in one location. But you have to be really careful with like orbiting. Orbit controls are not working in this example. So this is more complicated example than just adding your object in one space in the same place. Then you can have different helpers like this. See, they help you to see the lights in your scene. So for example, now we have directional light in our scene, but we can't see it, and these helpers help you like see them. This is an example of rectangle lights and what they do. Alright, you can also turn on wireframe modes in your objects if you want to see wireframes. You can even make them dashed like that. Okay, they have, by the way, 3D unloader for Rhino, so probably you can try upload Rhino geometry as well, like straight in your browser. Okay. What I'm looking for is somewhere here. Materials. You can also create particles. Yep, like this, for example, create snow. Okay. You can have pretty detailed models, as you see here. This just depends on the textures you have and the optimization of it and so on. You can have various textures in your background if you want to, if you need. And you can also add some post-processing if it's necessary. I don't think that this fits our tasks right now, but you can have various effects. All right, this is not what I'm looking for. Yeah, this one is cool. This is the blur effect, or this one as well. You can turn on and turn off the lights here. Okay, come on. VR, some physics stuff. Oh, this what I wanted to show you. If you want to have more controls, you can use this thing. I think it's called transform controls, and let me search something like that. Three.js transform controls. Okay, documentations, and you can have if I'm not mistaken, you can have not only dragging options here with this axis thing, but also you can have like rotations, orbits enabled here, and the scale also enabled here, so you can just, instead of dragging along this cone thing here, you'll have a cube. You will drag a cube and you will change the proportions of your element. Yeah. So it's another option available, but really, when you're using this on an iPad or on your phone, it's not that easy to grab this arrow or a small cone or small square. It's easier to grab the objects, yeah, than those helpers and UI things. That's why I really don't. Well, it depends on your project and on what you're doing. If you're working with computer and you're gonna run your project only on desktop browsers, it's okay. If you want to run it on mobile devices, try opening this example on your phone, for example, and move this box around with your fingers and see what happens. All right. So I think this is it for your first Three.js experience. I think it's really complicated stuff, and probably if you have more time, we could just stop on the rotating or jumping cube today, and it would be easier for you to understand what's going on. Right now we have this WEBITECTURE project again, filled with this JavaScript and Three.js part. Everything is working, everything is commented. So if you want to know what is going on here, just read the comments. So this is a function to turn on and off the remove tool. This is rotation. These are the functions to load your models. If you want to load another model, just change the URL here. You don't have to change all the code here. You can just change the URL. Make sure you have your models ready. Make sure they are uploaded in your assets folder. Test them with the viewer before. Then just change the amount of buttons that you need. Just if you don't need that much buttons, remove them from HTML and remove them from your JavaScript file. Or maybe if you're happy with this amount of buttons, just leave it as it is, because if you remove it from HTML, it's easy. You just remove this one line. In JavaScript, you have to remove all the mentions of the buttons ID. So you will have to remove this function for scaling, for example, attachment to a button. Then you will have to remove this updates of interface over here, and probably something else. If you run into errors, make sure you check your console here. There are some errors now. 2 of them are with importing this CSS fonts, stuff like that. I should figure out what's going on here, why it doesn't import fonts as it was importing before. Then again, some errors coming from Three.js library. This is not on our site. If you have errors in your file, you will see like style CSS or script.js or index.html, which is actually the rarest thing I've ever met, I guess. Mistakes in HTML file. So make sure you change the background colors to the colors that you prefer. Make sure you change those button colors to the colors that you prefer, the background color of your web page Maybe you don't need those shadows, maybe you don't need those round corners, maybe you don't need this animation running here, maybe you don't need this part at all, just want your UI and your 3D scene. Maybe you don't need the initial plane. There is a thing called grid helper like this. Let me try and find this grid helper. So you can just copy and paste this somewhere in your scene, and you will get this grid. You can say like grid helper dot position. Now it's in the 0. Maybe you don't need to move it, or you can move it a bit below, and now it's in the same place with the plane, and maybe we don't need a plane here. So now we have this just pure grid and your objects, and you can drag them around and move them. And you also can have one extra option when you drag your object. If you don't want your object to go below the ground, you can make a conditional statement here and say something like if event dot position dot y is less than 0, event dot object, then event dot object dot position dot y equals 0. This will lead to something like this. If you move your object below, it will pop up. So that way you can't move it below the ground, but you can move it up and down. Probably you don't need a point light in your scene. Point light. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's it. You're ready to modify this thing and to create your own 3D software working in your browser. Questions, comments?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Great. It seems like during the translation you can see the chat. Can you check this, please? Now.
Yes. Can we use 3D viewers like Sketchfab instead scripts to share models? Yes, of course. If you want to just upload your model to make it available online for everybody to see it, yes, of course, you can use any available service that you have. Like Sketchfab is fine. All right. Any other questions? I don't see other questions. Okay, thank you, Andrei, for joining us. All right, never mind. So, guys, if you don't have any questions, we can stop for today. I know that this workshop got from something basic and pretty easy like 3D modeling in Blender to something really complicated within a few days. But you have everything ready for your 3D app. Just change the models, change the images on the buttons, and you're ready to go. Change the background or anything you want. That's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and see you tomorrow. We are dying to see your projects and what you created. So, all right. Goodbye to those watching us online. All right.